Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We do hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us on the back of yet another defeat for Antonio Conte's Tottenham Hotspurs men. I just can't quite know what to say at the moment. Not like me or, like I say, Lee McQueen to be lost for words. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify, we're on Audio Boom. We're across a range of different audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And as I said at the top of the show, we're here dissecting yet another Tottenham Hotspur defeat. Therapy almighty on its way. We're delighted to be joined by, of course, two returning guests alongside us. I am joined first up, of course, by our Conte leader of the crazy train, Lee. It's crazy, but my God, it's certainly not enjoyable at the moment.
I fancy jumping off, Rick, if I'm completely honest with you. Maybe the train will have a driverless train, because some of that defending there today looked like that we didn't have a clue. And I'm sure we'll get into it. But like you said at the top of the show, it's very, very unlike me to be lost for words. But I'll be honest with you, I'm sick about talking about the same things. This is the fourth manager now that we're going to start to say that his tactics aren't right or the players aren't right. You know, the one thing that is always a constant is Enoch. The one thing that is always a constant over the last 20 years. Now, I'm not blaming the board for losing that football match today, but equally something I don't know what it is. I literally don't know what it is. We were woeful, absolutely woeful today at the back. Some of the passing forward, it was embarrassing. I can't believe I'm saying this under an Antonio Conte side. I cannot believe the mentality hasn't changed. All of us, all four of us here, all of the listeners, all of the viewers, we have seen this time and time and time and time again, and nothing changes. Nothing changes. What I will say is credit to Southampton in the week. I thought they were excellent, and credit to Wolverhampton Wanderers today as well. I know my dad's happy because he's a Wolves fan. So fair play for them to come in and doing the business. But Tottenham Hotspur, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I would love to know the answer to that question. Now, as I said, we're delighted to be returning two guests to the show. This man, when he last came on, Nuno was on the brink. We're not quite there with Conte yet, of course, and we hope there's still much more from him to come. But delighted to have this man back. We've got the brilliant presenter, Marcus Buckland, back on the Last Word on Spurs. Marcus, I've had to apologise to guests in the last week to bringing them back onto Last Word on Spurs. I'm doing the same to you. How are you, Marcus?
Yeah, well, I'm drying out. I've been to both the games this week. Today was miserable. The weather was diabolical. I was reminded again of how hideous the infrastructure is when you go on the train and the queuing up afterwards, which you can bear if you've just seen something special. But that was totally unbearable. And what Lee said, I would echo. I mean, the thing that I really don't understand is that players who've looked like good players at other clubs. I mean, Ryan Sessegnon was a wonder kid. Matt Doherty, when we signed him, I thought, I'm excited because he put in terrific performances week after week for Wolves. Davinson Sanchez had a bit of pedigree, although I know there were those within the game who doubted his credentials even during his time at Ajax. But it does seem that something happens when these players walk through the gates at Tottenham. And you're right, it is far too early to start seriously criticising the manager. But we have managed to see off the likes of Jose Mourinho and goodness knows how many others who have failed to achieve what they've managed at every other club. So I cannot put my finger on what it is, but it was, I mean, if we thought the first half against Southampton on Wednesday night was bad, what about that first 45 minutes today? That was humiliating, I have to say.
Yeah, no, it was. And I know many people use that term embarrassing. I don't think that's too strong at the moment from what we're seeing from Spurs. You know, it's just been pathetic displays. And I think we're all just scratching our heads as to how under Antonio Conte we are getting these kind of performances when we all feel Conte is one of the best managers in the world. But I think the problem we've got is, you know, you look at this season, or you look at previous seasons, Spurs in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, and now Antonio Conte. Probably you'd argue 3 of the top 6, 7 managers in the world. And you have to look and think, well, if it's not the managers, then you've got to look at the players, maybe look where, it, you know, from the top downwards, the board. And listen, we've always addressed these issues on the show. Delighted to be welcome also this guest back to the show. He messaged me this morning to say to me the last time he was on, Spurs were beaten at home by Wolves. So I'm not saying it's his fault or my fault, but Johnny, Couldn't make this up. Lovely to have you here. Jonny Blain, statsman, of course, for the Premier League and many other services as well. Jonny, lovely to have you here. How are you? We're going to unmute you, Jonny. As much as Spurs, much I unmute you, Mike, we won't. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, as you said, last time I was on, February 2020, we lost to Wolves. A lot has happened in the world since that time, but not a lot seems to have changed at Spurs.
No.
I just want to go back to what Lee said. I thought Southampton were fantastic. And honestly, I left that ground thinking, why are they 12th, whatever they are in the league? I thought they were superb. I actually thought Wolves didn't need to do much to beat us today. We gave them 2 goals in the first 20 minutes. And after that, they just said, what have you got? And we had absolutely nothing. They were missing arguably their second best midfielder in Moutinho, maybe even their best. They didn't need to pop the ball about like Southampton. We just had absolutely no answer. And you're right, Rick, it does come from the top, but you've got to start looking at the players. The same players churning out the same performances. Winks. I don't like to name names, but we're going to, aren't we? Winks, Sanchez, Doherty. It's the same culprits.
Usual suspects, isn't it? It's the usual suspects. Yeah.
And people go, oh, we should sign this one. We should sign that one. There are players out there, Ward-Prowse, Bissouma, who have run the midfield against us, who I'm not saying we will be able to go and buy them, but there are players. Where were we when Brighton signed Bissouma? Why aren't we looking at players like this? I just think there are players out there that could improve our team. You don't have to go fishing in Serie A or Spain or whatever. And we've not really replaced Eriksen, which is difficult to replace a player like him. But we've just not replaced people like Winks who can pass the ball. And it's a real problem, our ball retention.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just feel at the moment with Spurs. I mean, listen, the usual format of this show, for anyone that's obviously new to the show, of course, that we generally would dissect the game and then look ahead to whoever we've got upcoming. But it feels at the moment, I mean, I'm sure if the guys would agree in the comments, and our watching audience, there's nearly 500 plus of you watching us live, 500 of you plus watching us live at the moment. You feel like there's a bigger issue at Spurs currently. And do you know what's so bizarre is, you know, Conte obviously before the January window made it very clear that there was obviously a number of players that he would like to be moved on, so there wouldn't be any obviously discerning voices at the club. But you feel like now, having moved those players on, there is just that element at the moment that isn't quite clicking. And again, like we've just said there, Antonio Conte, one of the best managers in the world, and you look at the performances on the pitch, something just isn't quite translating, is it? I mean, Lee, we'll start with you. I just want to start with you, Lee, because it was, again, wasn't it, a shocking opening to a match. And we've been here before, and we're here again. But listen, we had moments in that second half. But I don't know if you agree with me, Lee, that I said in the green room, we were never, ever coming back into that game had we played for 3-4 hours. But top 4 at the moment, if we're being brutally honest, looks like it's slipping away. Top 6, I'll be honest, looks like a challenge. So where do you stand at the moment? It's 3 successive league defeats, and it's City away next to come.
Well, I'm a fool. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, anyone that follows me or, you know, likes me, God forbid, you know, I apologise to you. You know, unfollow me, man, because I sat here not even a week ago and said we're on the up. Like, you know, we've brought in a couple of players up. Fair enough. We could have had a much better transfer window. For me, it was a 6 out of 10. But ultimately, we've, you know, we are where we are. We've shipped some players out. You know, Kane started firing again. I thought we were outstanding against Brighton, absolutely outstanding. And I did not see that Southampton result coming. And then this happens. I mean, weirdly enough, my stats book is out a little bit today. I've got to be honest with you. 17 shots, 8 on target. 8 on target. We had more possession than more passes than more shots on target than them. And actually, that goes back to what Jonny was saying. Actually, Wolves didn't have to do that much in the end to beat us. But let's be honest about it. The game was done after 20 minutes. 20 minutes at home, the game was done. We've got some bang average players in this squad. And, you know, I don't like digging out players and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it's brutally, you know, it's obvious. Not one player today was over a 6 out of 10 for me in that squad. And that's probably being generous. You know, and you know, if that was a freak result, if we were playing, you know, I don't know, say we'd have a 10-game run where we'd won 7 and drawn 3, and this was our 11th game and we'd lost it, you kind of go, bad day at the office. That was a bad day at the office against Southampton. What was today? This was, you know, it's not right. There's something fundamentally not right with the football club, with the way that we're setting up. Now, I don't want to go on a massive rant, and I am losing the faith. I'll be honest with you. It ruins everything. It ruins the weekend. It ruins the family. Like, I've got 3 daughters. They want to come and do a show with daddy and all that, and I'm just got the hump with them. It's not their fault. It's bloody Tottenham's. You don't freaking turn up. Every freaking week, you don't turn up. It's a joke. You got people coming out of the ground like Marcus saying, like, absolutely pissing down with rain. Like, what is happening? Like, this shit, we are at home. He wants it to be a fortress. We've got a top 5 manager in the world, right? Top 5. Why aren't you getting a tune out of these players then? Because I've been on here saying this. Everyone that I've spoke to on the WhatsApp groups, whatever, everyone's been saying, oh, you know, Ben Davies is improved, you know, Winks is improved. Like, I'm not saying they're good games today. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they've improved contact. What is that it now? Like, now people are going, oh, we shouldn't have sold Dembele. Yes, we should. He was shocking. It was an absolutely outrageously shocking buy. Lo Celso, outrageous. So this is the thing. When you go on social media and you've got like people, 1 minute it's all happy days and the next minute it's all doom and gloom. It's always sank in the middle. Today, I am a bit doom and gloom because I'm sick of it, Rick. If I'm honest, I'm pig sick of it. I don't know if it's the manager's fault. I don't know if it's the board's fault. I don't know if it's the thanks, Simon. I don't know if it's the the players' fault. Typically, when a disaster happens, right, and we're kind of coming into one because we got Man City away in our next Premier League game. I don't think we've lost 4 Premier League games. Johnny might have to back me up on this. I don't think we've lost 4 Premier League games on the trot for like 20 years or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Marcus was saying it before. Yeah, 2004.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, buddy. So 2004, Marcus. Thanks, mate. So 18 years, and we're about to do that under Conte. This is mental.
By the way, when we lost those 4 back in 2004, we actually lost 6 in a row. So gear yourself up for. Although after that, we won 5 in a row. So I don't know what we read into the next few weeks.
But 5 in a row would get you 4th.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
at the moment.
The 2 things I would say, and I think we are going to agree with a lot of the 2 things I would say is this might sound weird. I think the fixture list throws us a bit of a curveball in having Southampton and Wolves at home back-to-back games because I think they both actually play. They've shown how to play against Spurs.
Absolutely.
With the press on Wednesday night and their creativity and how we were crying out, of course, to have someone like a Ward-Prowse to deliver the balls that he did for their goals late on. And today, we all watch Wolves win at Arsenal, and I spoke to so many people that, they'll now come and bounce back from that, and they'll beat us because they've got the sort of players who will thrive against Spurs, and it proved to be the case again. Although Johnny is absolutely right, we gave them 2 goals; they didn't have to do much else thereafter. And on the subject of the manager, he's a brilliant manager. He has, I think, only once before lost 3 league games in a row, and that was, I think, back in 2009 in Italy. But what I would say, very quick to make a tactical change today. But to me, the obvious tactical change, and he doesn't seem to like the formation, is to play 3-5-2 with the current squad. And I would suspect that 85% of fans would agree with that formation at the moment. So to that extent, I do have a question mark about Conte's tactics at the moment.
Yeah.
You know what, Mark? To stick with you, I mean, it's been and I know you've been at both of these games. It's just been a real dismal week for the club. You know, you could arguably say it's the 2 worst performances back to back under Conte. We've had 3 obviously overall, but as we know with Spurs, and we've seen this under previous managers, whether it be Pochettino or even Jose, the individual defensive errors that we are making game by game, that for whatever manager seems to be there, cannot seem to eradicate them. I mean, and also I've got to say, we just lacked, I would say, the ingenuity to break Wolves down. As I said to you off air, at no point did I generally ever believe at 2-0 that Spurs would ever have a hope in hell of getting back into this game. Did you ever believe, Marcus, that Spurs would get back into that game today?
Well, I'm such a sucker, despite having gone for such a long time, that I still thought if we get 1, we might get a second, but that was not real hope. And I mean, Hugo Lloris, who's been really good this season, he had a shocker. Okay, so he's largely to blame for both the goals, but you're absolutely right. Defensively, Davinson Sanchez he's a busted flush. He's obviously got no confidence, no belief in his own game. Ben Davies, I think, is the same. I feel a bit sorry for Romero, who's trying to pick up the pieces around those 2. Sessegnon, while he was on the pitch, I mean, he stood still, I thought, but I still feel for him for having to go off. Someone had to be sacrificed. And Doherty, I think, is so short on confidence. He doesn't dare do. I think he did 1 positive run 2/3 of the way through the game, which actually almost led to an opening. Other than that, he picks up the ball and he passes it sideways, which I'm afraid is what Harry Winks also does, and that's worse than ever because he's meant to be our creative hub. And I'm sorry, but I don't want to go off at individuals too much, but Harry Winks is not good enough in that role. If we think he's going to create opportunities and get us in the top 4, let's all just go and get on the beach for the summer now.
I just think with Spurs at the moment, I don't know if you guys agree that, the likes of the Sanchez's, the Winks, the Dohertys, for me, I said this on the last show, these are just at the moment kind of sticking plasters over a wound that is, it's in real need of being properly treated. And we're not going to be able to treat that wound to the summer. And therefore, I think a lot of these players are stopgaps. And the problem is, I think, when you know you're a stopgap, whether that feeds into that mindset, so you're not going to be here long term, I wonder if that plays into the players. I'm trying to understand and find and fathom some rationale between the performances that we've seen over this week. I mean, Johnny will come round to you, a real miserable afternoon. And I do want to say, listen, Conte, I don't think we've got any doubt that he's the right man at this football club. But I will say that from the murmurings on social media, tactical game management, there is a bit of pressure on him for the first time, I would say. But I think they're all in agreement. Listen, we've got the right man at the helm. But my God, he's going to need some backing in the summer. I mean, what have you made, Johnny, of the past week as a Spurs fan?
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit further. I'm just having a look at my stat sheet, as is my want on a Sunday night. And so he started against Everton, was his first game. He's played 3-5-2 twice. Leicester away, where we were fantastic for most of the game, but still could have lost, as we well know. And Liverpool at home. 2 games where we played really, really well. But we played really, really well on the counter. We played well on the counter against Liverpool because they play really high up, and that's the best way to play Liverpool, is to break on them. But I think that works for us. Leicester, we countered them to death. Most of our chances came on the break. I think Son didn't play against Leicester. It was Lucas, but he can play on the break. And I can't remember. Son played against Liverpool. That is the best formation. We've discussed it in here. You see it on Twitter. Lee said it. People going on about it. None of us are Conte. But for some, Nuno did this as well. He played 3-5-2 to death at Wolves, came to Spurs, didn't play it once. Maybe we're not seeing something that they're seeing. But we've played it twice under Conte. We scored 5 goals and looked like scoring 5 more against Liverpool and Leicester. So I don't know what is going on. When you're talking about sticking plasters, I think that would be the biggest sticking plaster we have. Play that formation, get Son nearer to Kane, because Son's not a winger. He's also someone that it has to happen very quickly for Son. If Son's had 5 touches, he's had 3 too many, in my opinion. And I love the guy. He scores good goals, but he's not. You don't want to be playing slow football with Son. It's got to be fast. Yep. So I just think that's got to be the formation. It also puts an extra body in midfield. And I know that probably means another defensive player. It means Bentancur, Skip/Winks and Højbjerg, unless you can get Kulusevski in there. I thought he did all right in the 10 today. And that doesn't really suit the 3-5-2. Or you can play a 3-4-1-2, whatever. We've got to go back to packing the midfield and getting Son and Kane closer together.
I agree. I mean, I just think tonight, again, with I will read a flavour of some of our listener questions. I must apologise, guys. We had over 75 to 80 questions come in. So you appreciate if we read every question out, we wouldn't get towards the end of the show. So I will read a flavour out, then we'll discuss a bit more in detail, just the tactical element and the way Spurs are setting up. Because I think that's one thing in particular that's kind of coming out of a lot of these comments as to how Spurs are setting up games. And there's that feeling, I think, that Wolves and Southampton have somehow felt Tottenham out in the last 2 games. There's that real feeling around that. So Steve Bunyan says the limitations of some of these players will always rear its ugly head at times. It will keep happening while they're at Spurs. I said this on your podcast after the Brighton game when you're waxing lyrical. Winks, Davis, Sanchez, Doherty, Lucas, they are simply not good enough. John Omar Goodison says, we've gone through 5 coaches in 2 years. Players have left and now arrived. We're still failing to be consistent and continue to disappoint. Cody Slutter says, do some of our players realise they are stopgaps and therefore don't put the full effort in because they know they aren't going to be around for too much longer? Hayek Shah says, I agree on backing Conte, but when you do, you see his team selections and they are blinding at the moment. I've watched a lot of games where Rodon has played. I could see there's a player there. He can't be as bad as the players that we're playing at the moment to make these continue individual errors. Terard Halkity says, 2 must-win games and we get served up performances like that, 0 points. We started both games all over the place, on the back foot. If 2 of the centre-backs had a good game, the other will be a disaster. If all 3 are good, Lloris is a disaster. What is going on? Guys, Habib also says, please talk about the tactics, the game plan, the game management, team performances issues. Johnny, you touched upon it there. Lee, I want to come round to you. Now, I am conscious that, listen, I will say this again at the top of the show so people, I'll make this very clear. I think we all believe Conte is the right man for the football club, but we're just trying to understand just how we've been, like I say, sounded out in this last 180 plus minutes by Southampton and Wolves. Wolves are a very good team. Southampton likewise, but if Spurs have got any aspirations of finishing in the top 4, these are teams that you have to beat. So, Lee, coming over to you, does Conte need to adjust that formation for you?
Yeah, I think he does. I think Johnny read it out earlier. I think that I think it was obvious. I wasn't at the game today. I was at the game midweek, where I sit in 252. I've got quite I'm row 48, right? So we've got quite a good vantage point, and it was glaringly obvious that we needed another body in midfield. Well, I'm not no tactician, right? Don't listen to what I'm talking about. But it was glaringly obvious from just a punter, from a supporter, that we need another body in midfield. And I think it was glaringly obvious today. I didn't have the vantage point today clear, but I think it was glaringly obvious today that we needed, even if he wants to set up as a 3-4-3 with that personnel, just tactically switch something in the game. 5-6 minutes in, we're 1-0 down. But, maybe think, we're getting overrun there a bit. Let's just pack it out a little bit with the player that we've actually got on the pitch. I didn't see any change. I mean, Sessegnon, okay, I feel sorry for Sessegnon walking around the pitch and whatever. He was 30 million. This guy was 30 million quid, and he was an absolute passenger. Now, being pulled off, whether or not you think it's the right thing or not, that pulling him off, don't know what I'm talking about here. Don't know where we're going with that comment, Rick. But getting him taken off, right, or Conte substituting him, let's put it that way, might have been the wrong thing, might have been the right thing. But the fact of the matter is, he was a passenger, and there's too many passengers in the team. We're having a go at Lloris had a horrific game today. That happens. And unfortunately, as a goalkeeper, when you have a bad game, you're probably letting goals. And that's exactly what happened today, right? But, Son, we're having a go at him, too many touches. And by the way, I totally agree with you. Like 5 touches too much, he needs to do it quick. The whole team is slow. It's lethargic. It is 3-4 touch football. It should be 1-2 touch. This is Conte doing double sessions. This is about fitness. Yeah. This is about we are going to be fitter and stronger. Where is it? Where's the fitter and stronger? Where is the people charging out and pressing? Where's the people closing down Ward-Prowse, where you can just have like the best right foot delivery in the world twice? Where is that again today? Like it wasn't there.
Lee, I agree with you. And the worry, a mate said to me after the transfer window and after Brighton, he said, was Brighton Conte's first game in charge of Tottenham? Because he'd got rid of the players, he'd brought a couple in. But if it was his first game in charge, he's lost his first 2 Premier League games in charge. And that's a bit of a worry. I know we'll probably talk about this, but we'll get to the summer and he'll sort the summer out and blah, blah, blah. But if this is the players he wants, we've lost at home to Southampton and Wolves.
Yeah. And the thing is, Johnny, I totally agree. That the thing is as well, we've now got 4 away games, right? So you've got the cup in there as well. So we've got to go to the Etihad. Now, I was trying to be optimistic against the defeat against Southampton, thinking, okay, well, we've got to go to the Etihad now. We've got to do it the hard way. We've now have to get something from the Etihad. We have to. Top 4, 3 weeks ago, top 4 was right in our hands. It is now not. Absolutely.
Well, City, Burnley, and Leeds. City, Burnley, Leeds to come, and Borough.
Giving it large, isn't there, Rick? And whatever. But
of course.
That's fair enough. Let them do that weird, but let them do it. But, there's a lot of football to play, but there's no doubt that these 2 football matches have really, really hurt us. We needed a response today, and we didn't get one, did we? We didn't get one. So how are we going to get a response against Man City?
Well, we're not.
And I just feel exactly, Marcus. And I just feel.
Lee, I love you. I love your optimism. All we're going to get at City, and I hope I'm wrong, is a hiding.
Cool. It feels. I'm trying to again. I want to keep some rational and fair balance to the show, but it does feel. That we're going to City in that same vein under Jose. If you remember, we lost up there 3-1. Sanchez falling around on the floor. Coming over to you, Marcus. Listen, we touched upon it. Conte lost 3 consecutive league games for the first time in 12 years. He also lost 3 home league games as manager for the first time since November 2009 when he's in charge of Atalanta. I just think these are, when you read these stats out from the Mourinhos, the Contes, the Pochettinos, it can't always be the managers. Surely, as we said, the players, Marcus, they have to take an element of responsibility. Do you feel there's much more to this than meets the eye in terms of the formation? Is there a need to change the game because teams are suddenly finding Spurs out more?
Well, as I've said, I do think the formation should be changed to 3-5-2, and you're absolutely right with the comparison, because I remember during the Mourinho era, we kept getting all these stats. This was the first time he'd lost 3-0 at home. This was the first time he'd lost 3 in a row. And we're getting exactly the same with Conte. It's interesting. Conte, I find him quite hard to listen to in his post-match interviews or any interviews because he doesn't give a lot away. He was trying to stress that he felt the players gave their all today. He's spoken about them being too emotional as well. I mean, the one thing I will say is, as poor as Spurs were, I did think they kept going, and actually they got better as the match developed. We've all agreed we didn't think they were going to come back into it, but I think I do want to give some credit wherever possible. They kept going to the very end. I don't think any of the players, even if they know their stopgaps are unprofessional enough to not be giving 100%. I just think that a lot of them are lacking confidence, and that leads to the sorts of performances we've seen from so many of them on a regular basis. And the manager himself is in a difficult situation because, of course, the January transfer window is shut. Whether you like it or not, the players have gone, the players have come in. There are very few alternatives. Okay, Skip's missing at the moment because of injury. Tanganga is missing, but I'm not sure that many of us would want to see him in the team at the moment after he played those games against Chelsea. Dyer obviously could make a big difference at the back, but Conte hasn't got a lot of options, and he can't afford, I think, really now to do what perhaps Mourinho is occasionally guilty of, and just to rinse out the players and further damage their limited self-confidence anyway. So it's a really difficult situation. The only blessing, as you guys were saying in the podcast during the week, is that the majority, if not all of the other sides, trying to get into that fourth place are nearly as bad as us. And at least West Ham didn't win today. Manchester United didn't win yesterday. Arsenal, of course, have now got some games in hand as well. As appalling as we have been recently, and as tough as the next fixture is, funny enough, I look at Burnley away and Leeds away and then Everton at home, and I think, okay, I get my confident hat back on, that actually those two away games are winnable. And then we all feel a little bit better when Everton come to town and we try and put one over Frank Lampard. So, but I mean, again, that's more wishful thinking than genuine belief that it's going to happen. And I cannot see anything at Man. I don't think I can bring myself to watch the game at City on Saturday afternoon. I might watch the first 20 minutes, and then there's got to be something better on the other side.
I'll tell you. I mean, come around to you, Johnny. Listen, I love Conte. I think, listen, I don't know how we've still attracted to the football club. I've got to be honest with you. I still don't know how we've done that. And I'm aware that, for him to hang around, there's got to be something that's going to be, big enough to tempt him. What worries me is between now and the end of the season, I'm just worried that he might pack this in. That's what I'm generally worried about. Do you feel that for him, Johnny, that he can in the summer get those players? Because there's a lot of talk in the comments about, not being backed by the ball. And I think this is at a time now we're at with Spurs. I think there's never been such a frustration as there is right now towards the current board. And we're seeing that with the attendances, and we're seeing that with real fan frustration. Do you generally believe, Johnny, he'll be back in the summer and given the tools required in order to be able to move Spurs on as a football club?
Well, first of all, the attendances, I actually thought Wednesday night wasn't full, nearly 55. Today looked absolutely packed. I think fair play to the fans. They're still turning up. There was a few issues in December, but that was probably a COVID thing. But anyway, do I think he'll still be here? I do have that worry that he'll pack up and leave, but I think he probably wouldn't care, but I think he'd look an absolute idiot if he did. Yes, I think he will.
You reckon he'd look an idiot if he was to leave?
I don't think it looks very professional. I mean, he came in the middle of third of the way through a season. He's had one window, which is always difficult. It seems a bit bizarre to not have a full summer and then go into that season with your team. So I don't think he will leave. Will he be backed? I saw someone just make a comment. The managers haven't been back for 3 years. Well, I get a lot of stick for it. I'm not defending Levy because there's a lot going on. It's not all Levy, in my opinion. There's a lot that's happened. He delegates. He may delegate to the wrong people. Maybe Hitchin just was a terrible scout. We spent a lot of money, and Lee attested to this earlier, on rubbish. Ndombele, Lo Celso, that's nearly 100 million quid of a centre midfield that could not play in the Premier League. So we have to sign better players. And as I said earlier, you can buy a Ward-Prowse or a Basuma for half that price. There are players out there. But we have an issue, don't we? Because we saw it with Luis Diaz. We go for this player, agent picks up the phone, Liverpool want him. Yeah. Well, where's he going to go? Yeah. So people say, let's do the business early. I don't think it's that easy because you've got to tempt people not play in the Champions League. Champions League clubs get a sniff of these players that we could attract because of Conte. They might go elsewhere because of Champions League. We don't pay the wages these clubs obviously pay. But to go back to the question, yes, I do think he'll be here, but I do fear we have another disappointing window. And if we don't start well next season, that could push him over the edge. But I think he'll be here. I really do.
Lee, let's come over to you. I mean, his comments after today, he acknowledged that the confidence is low of the players, and he even says for him there is that bit of pressure on him. He says the confidence and the pressure is part of the job. This type of situation is normal to him. He says, if you remember when I spoke about to try and improve many aspects, it's not only today. After 2 defeats in a row at home, I can continue to tell you the situation. There is a long path in front of us. There are many aspects to improve. The performance today was good. We created many chances against a team with the second best defensive record in the league. Despite that, we created many chances to score. I can't speak about bad commitment because until the end, we pushed. Now, again, we will come on to the actual story of the game shortly, but Lee, the comments after the game, are you in agreement with Conte in terms of seeing that commitment of the players, or do you think this comes down to more about general ability as to what we've got out there at the moment?
I think they're committed. I don't think they are. I think there's players like Doherty maybe that he was swanning around a bit. I think there's players like Davinson Sanchez that just hasn't got the quality. Harry Winks, there's desire there. He wants to do it. I just don't think he has the ability to do some of the stuff that he needs to do. I mean, I'll give you an example in the point of the game where there was a time, I think in the first half, where Winks got the ball and instead of checking backwards, he tried to drop his shoulder and go. He just couldn't do it. He just, he just couldn't do it. So I think they are trying. I think there's a huge frustration from Conte because he is coaching these players to set up and do a certain thing, and they can't do it. They actually can't carry out his instructions. I also think there's a slight defensive, well, not a slight defensive frailty. There's a load of frailties. No, but I think there's a slight defensive aspect to our team setup. And actually, Tottenham, regardless of whoever's been in the manager, whoever's been in charge of the football club, quite frankly, the gaffer, who I call the gaffer, Lord Sugar, obviously he owned our football club for 10 years. And, before in ink. And regardless of who's owning it, who's managing it, we've always been able to go score goals. That is who we are. That is what we do. When we're setting up defensively, like under Jose and all that sort of stuff, and maybe counter-attacking football and whatever, it's the defensive side of our game isn't right. So that's where there's loads of comments. I can't give you the credit, guys, because I've gone all the way up the screen now. But loads of people saying about we can't handle the press. But that's why we can't handle the press, because we should be the team pressing, right? Under Pochettino, and I don't want to keep going back to Poch, but just during that era of, think about it, we were possession football, high press, high intensity, 1-2 touch football. And that's what we were really good at. And it didn't work all the time. We still struggled to break the likes of Brighton down. I remember a 1-0 win Eriksen had to score when we were still at Wembley. And always, the Harry Winks goal, Fulham, NG putting it through, and it was a last-minute winner and whatever. So we still struggled. That's just football, right? If you don't like that, then probably go and watch another sport. But it was the high intensity and the high intensity of press. And we just don't seem to have done that at all in the last 2 games. And when we do it, we're actually pretty good at it. So I don't understand. There's a defensive aspect of it, that frailty. And just to come back to Conte's comments, at Lee McQueen on Twitter, if you want to follow me, you probably won't want to after this waffle, but I tweeted last week, I absolutely love the bloke. He is so refreshing to hear. His answers, we had, a gold standard, Ali Gold on the show, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, in press conferences and when you interview him, he just gives you brilliant, thoughtful answers that are true. And what we're all thinking, I'm like, I love this bloke. But I'm like, how is he not getting his message across? He's a top 5 manager in the world. Yes, the players aren't good enough, but they're not that bad, are they? Are they?
Questionably, yes.
Do you know what's funny, Mark? After the game, Mark, he also spoke about the fact that winning mentality, in my opinion, means I'm ready to kill you but live. When you show better desire than your opponent, when you understand defeats have to hurt you a lot, not a little. This is not simple. You cannot buy the winning mentality. You have to transfer it day by day. But there are some players who understand it quickly. Others take more time. Now, I don't know if that's people said about this during the week. I don't know if that's a dig to the more senior players, the likes of the Llorises, the Sons, the Canes that are over that 25-year-old mark, and they are coming to what you would say is the core of their career. Many would argue they're coming towards the end of their career, the way it's going with someone like Lloris. But I don't know whether, like I say, Marcus, there's enough leadership out of those players that we've had that we do believe are leaders. What do you think? Is there a lack of winning mentality leadership in that dressing room, despite what they've won? The likes of Lloris won a World Cup.
Well, we all saw the documentary, and Lloris, actually, that really surprised me how much more forceful, certainly behind the scenes, he is than I had anticipated. Difficult for the captain on a day like today, when he's made 2 howlers like that, to then still find a way. I mean, a true leader will still find a way to do that. But I felt this is a key thing throughout the game today. There was nobody really who wanted to take the responsibility and drag everybody up off their knees, and that I think is partly because of a lack of confidence, because of what's happened recently. I think it's also partly we're just not good enough in key areas, unfortunately. But I guess it's human nature. When things are going wrong, you will look to hide a little bit. You'll you play the simple ball and let somebody else try and do something special. And I felt that, and I feel a bit for Harry Winks, because I know he's had an injury that's definitely, I think, had an effect on his ability as a player. But, you're looking at your creative midfielder to unlock the door, to do something special. And time after time, for me, he wasn't. Occasionally, like Lee said, when he tried to drop his shoulder, you realise he just couldn't. And that's why he can spray the odd little ball out, out to the wing. But there were no killer balls. To be honest, by the end of it, I was almost saying, just boot the ball forward, because I almost felt that we might pull that Wolves defence aside and score an ugly goal, and that might change it around. And that was kind of what we did in the closing stages, where we looked as likely to score as at any point in the game, which is not exactly the Tottenham way, but maybe needs must. But you're right, Ricky. I think there's a lack of responsibility within that team. Nobody really wants to stand up and do what needs to be done, and I think that's partly because most of them just aren't actually good enough to do that.
Yeah. Johnny, coming around to you. I mean, after the game, he was also asked about not picking Joe Rodon. And he said, in this moment, maybe I'm making a mistake to pick different players, but my evaluation is trying to put on the pitch the best players. If I didn't do this, maybe I did have a different consideration. I mean, what's your thoughts on that in terms of, I'll be honest, for me, Joe Rodon has been in here when Jose Mourinho has been here, and Ryan Mason has been here, and he hasn't really been selected. So, I mean, if he's not being selected by those managers as well, plus Conte, it's got to be based on the ability rather than them having a problem with Joe Rodon, right?
Yeah, it's a bit like Ndombele. He's been through 4 managers and none have really fancied them. And it's always, I was talking about this earlier with a few friends, sometimes our injured players become our best players when we're not playing. Oh, when Dyer's been good, don't get me wrong, but when Dyer's back, we'll be okay. And Skip backs will be okay. And we might be. But for me, we might as well give Rodon a chance. I've not seen anything. And one thing Conte said in a few interviews is we'll struggle to win games. I just want to go back. When we drew at Southampton on the 28th of December, we played really well. We had 2 goals ruled out. Should have beaten them. They had 10 men for most of the game. So let's look at the results in 2022 only. 1-0 at Watford, last minute header. We were terrible. Lost at Chelsea in the Cup. Beat Morecambe in the Cup. We were 1 down with 20 minutes to go. Lost again to Chelsea. Beat Leicester. We played well, but we were seconds away from defeat. Lost again to Chelsea. Beat Brighton. Played okay. Lost to Southampton. Lost to Wolves. You look at, Conte said it, we will struggle to win football matches. So the victories in 2022 are Watford, Morecambe, Leicester, and probably the only one we really deserved was Brighton at home in the FA Cup. It's a massive problem, and we sit here and we dissect every little thing. We can talk about Levy, we can talk about Conte. I just think it comes down to lack of quality on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is where we're going to go next. We're going to discuss the story of the game. So we are going to go for our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. I must say, we at Last Word on Spurs here, we are delighted to announce that we are being sponsored by NordVPN. So NordVPN, of course, they're a secure, fast, incredibly safe, easy-to-use VPN. They've got over 5,200 servers across 59 different countries, and they automatically select the best server based on location loads on your specific needs. You guys will know there's, of course, that odd rule in the UK that prevents any live football being shown on TV between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. on a Saturday. Well, with Nord, by changing your location settings, this is a nice workaround which will allow you to, again, have that opportunity to, I would say, put it, save on your BT and Sky Sports subscription to allow you to watch those 3 p.m. kickoffs. You also find that you can use Peacock in the US along with the Premier League on NBC Sports, where they'll show the majority of 3 p.m. games. But you can also use Nord across many, many different solutions. They're reliable, of course, on blocking the likes of US Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, BBC iPlayer, HBO Max, Amazon Prime and Video 2. So as you can see there on the screen, you can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/lastwordonspurs or use the code lastwordonspurs, LWOS, to give you a huge discount off NordVPN, 1 additional month for free, plus a bonus gift. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. So, guys, make sure you check that out. Right. Sort of put you through it, gentlemen.
Comment from Stuart there is actually spot on. He says maybe we need NordVPN in our defence.
Well, can I ask a favour? If we end the defence like Nord, I think we'd be all right. But there you go. It's always the way. I've got to do it to you guys. We're going to have to go through the story of the game. And thank you, Kieran. I do try to be. Listen, ahead of the game, we'll start with you, Lee, on this. I mean, Conte did shake up the side. We had 3 changes with the visit of Wolves. Rodrigo Bentancur was probably the only bright spot from that game against Saints. And obviously, he was given a start in that midfield to, I think, our delight. He replaced Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in that midfield and played alongside Harry Winks. Now, I must say on Højbjerg, he's a player that's been given an incredible amount of stick over the course of the last, I would say, 4 to 5 months. And it's the first time in his Spurs career that Højbjerg had been dropped from the league side. He started actually every Premier League game, apart from that Liverpool one, at home, of course, to COVID. So the other changes, of course, we saw Matt Doherty, Ryan Sessegnon come in for Emerson Royale and Sergio Reguilon. Spurs' other new arrival, of course, in Dejan Kulusevski, remained on the bench. Of course, we knew ahead of the game that elsewhere Spurs were without Eric Dyer, Oliver Skipp, Jeffet Tanganga. That meant that we continued with that back 3 of Davinson Sanchez, Christian Romero and Ben Davies, to Marcus Buckland's absolute disgust, as you can see him there shaking his head in absolute anger and frustration. So that team red coming over to you, Lee. Loris, Sanchez, Romero, Davis, Doherty, Winks, Bentancur, Sessegnon, Lucas Kane, Son. Then the subs of Galini, Rodon, Reguilon, Emerson, Højbjerg, White, Kulusevski, Bergwijn, Scholar. So reading that bench, doesn't that sound terrifying? Quite literally.
I think when you mentioned Doherty and Emerson as our right wing backs, it is a bit of a worry, isn't it?
Honestly, that team though, when you saw that team, did you feel inspired at all ahead of kickoff?
Yeah, I was confident it was going to get a reaction. And I'm always confident at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. More for me, right? Because we just lost the last 2 games there, but I'm always confident at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We should be going out and showcasing what we can do. Son, Kane, Bentancur, I think he's going to be brilliant. And I do think that he had some flashes. But I've got to be honest with you, we were 2-1 up against Southampton. He come on a pitch, we lost 3-2. Right? He started today and we lost a football match. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? It's like, we're trying to put our finger on stuff. Højbjerg, he's had a lot of stick, and he has, and I've actually backed him the whole time. Say, look, I think did we miss him today? I'm not saying we did, but did we miss some leadership there? Dyer, I think we're realising that Dyer's a big miss in that back line. I think Dyer in a 2 is rubbish. Yeah, I think Dyer in a 3 looks like a different player. Yeah. We haven't had Dyer and Romero at the back at all, at all this season under Conte. So look, when the team comes out, I'm thinking, look, I think we all know. I just want to say this, right, just in case people think I'm deluded. I think we all realise that we have to have improvements in the squad. Right? I'm not saying that we don't, but we can't improve the squad today, can we? Does everyone agree with me on that?
We've got now to the end of the season. It is what it is.
We are where we are, and we've got what we've got, and we cannot make them improvements. So yes, from the team perspective, I think it was probably right to get Emerson out there and give Matt Doherty a go. Matt Doherty against Leicester in that second half was good. We just need him to turn up. Matt Doherty for Wolves was outstanding. It's one of the reasons why we purchased the bloke, right?
Of course.
And more for us again, come back to Johnny's point earlier. Was it bad scouting? Was he saying what Jose Mourinho wanted? Was it just a deal that the club couldn't refuse because it's 13 million? But he's been absolutely woeful. let's have it right. It's been woeful. So when he's come on the pitch and you think to yourself, oh God, how many assists is he going to get? How many chances is he going to create? And then you've got the other side, Sessegnon, who was literally a passenger the whole time, 30 million as well, by the way, as I reiterated earlier. And you're thinking, blimey, where's the creativity come? Then you've got 2 holding midfielders and you've got 3 at the back. You're thinking, where are we going to score goals here? And Lucas ain't been great, has he, the last 3-4 games? He's had an all right season compared to his stats. And he's very, very rarely gets into double figures in goals and assists, Lucas. But, he's started all right under Conte, but he's a little bit off the boil. Yeah. I think Romero today, I don't think he can play 3 games in a week.
And that's been shown today.
Absolutely. Injury that he had. And that's what Conte's looking at.
And that's the problem, isn't it? I think he's having to use these players because it's all he's got. And I think you're now seeing the effects of that.
What can he do? I mean, Romero, I think he looks different class, right? Against Brighton, I thought he was outstanding. His first game back. He probably needs to do rest in the midweek. Couldn't rest him because he ain't got a choice. So he's played again. And then, he was probably one of our best players on even though against Southampton. And then today, probably still one of the best passers of the ball, whatever. But he can't play 3 games in 7 days after that horrendous injury that had. No. But we haven't got the squad to do it. Jaffic can't come in. Dyer's not there. But then you make the point about Roden. Why isn't Roden coming in? Because there must be something that all these other managers are seeing. So it's really frustrating, mate. Really frustrating. Yeah. But look, to answer your question, the really long way that I've just done, I said I was lost for words at the beginning of the show. It didn't last long, did it? I was all right with the team. I would like to see 3-5-2. I think we play all right in 3-5-2. And I don't think it's defensive. I think if you play 3-5-2, I think you can get your wing backs right up the pitch. Right up the pitch. They should be attacking. And Wolves have got an amazing defensive record, right? Especially away from home. So you've got to go and have a go. You've got to try and create something.
Agreed. Marcus, sorry to do this to you. We have to go through that first goal again. Again, where to start with this? I mean, Jimenez volleying home, but, Lloris, you probably could have argued, should have held both of the previous efforts. But, again, chest it down, volleying home. What worries me is that the way we're starting games, there's such a shaky, fragile nature about Spurs at the back at the moment that I agree with Lee. Romero, I think he's going to be top class, but he can't do 3 games in the week. I was asking myself whether I'll see Sanchez 3 times this season, but we've seen him more than that. What is going on defensively at the moment, Marcus? Is it just a case of players aren't good enough? Is it a lack of confidence? What is it for you that we just can't seem to get right in that backline at the moment?
We'll go back to, I think, what all the boys have said, that there's a lack of quality there. There is now real lack of confidence as well. Misjudgment from Lloris. I mean, you could argue the first one, I think he could have, turned it to the side. The second one, I mean, he could catch it with one hand and have a cigar at the same time. I don't know what he was doing there. It was a good finish. I also feel guilty because I've been saying for a couple of weeks that Jimenez is nowhere near the player he obviously was prior to the horrible injury he had.
Tottenham curse, Mark. It's a Tottenham curse.
He'll probably go and score today. So, of course, he did. And it was a good finish, to be fair. Yeah, it was horrendous. Just on the starting 11, I was surprised that Reguilón didn't start. I mean, I thought he had a pretty good game on Wednesday. I mean, his crossing, I think it can be better. But I was a little surprised that he wasn't in the starting 11. I agree that I thought Doherty should be given a chance. And I think it's perhaps a reflection of how he was playing everybody else that was almost missing Emerson Royal. Although what a bizarre last substitution it was that he brought on Royal for Doherty. It was like, well, there's a game changer. And so you've got a couple of kids on the bench. Why don't you at least bring one of them on and give them 5 minutes of experience? What was, I don't want to go back to having the Conte bashing, but what was the point of swapping Doherty for Royal in the last 5 minutes? Unless Doherty did have an injury that I didn't notice.
I mean, Johnny, let's come over to you. I think the nature of that start and the way we invited pressure. Listen, Hugo, I've got to say, I mean, I don't know how many points I could do that red wine, Marcus, to tell you. It would go through a bottle by the time this is finished.
I'm ordering the second one right now. Wait up.
I don't want to see your bill at the end of this. It could be a fortune. We'll get NordVPN on the defensive line, don't worry. Johnny, coming over to you. Lloris, listen, I've been one of his biggest, praise this season. I think we can all agree that, as a show, Lloris has saved us so many more points than what he would have costed us. But the opening couple of goals, I mean, the way in which we invited pressure on ourselves, and as Marcus touched upon, Just a real calamity first 10, 20 minutes for Tottenham, where Lloris has been one of the most steadiest players in a Spurs shirt this season. Can you put your finger on just what happened in the opening 20 minutes?
I was so it annoys me. Wolves turned us round. They made us kick the other way. Some teams do that.
Yeah.
And I was really annoyed because I prefer to see us attacking the second half in the south stand where I sit. But I was delighted because I couldn't see what the hell was going on down the other end, to be honest. But I couldn't tell you what happened with that first goal. From my recollection, he punched a cross, which Lee attested to he should have probably caught. But I wasn't so fussed about that. And then I can't quite remember what happened. He punched out a shot when he should have held it.
He saved the long distance effort. It was a reasonable save, but unfortunately it sort of deflected back into play. And then when it came to him again, that was where it was a really weak fist.
He could have saved that.
He could have done anything with that. And then, to be fair, Jimenez had loads of time, and he put a nice finish away. But it was.
But again, to be fair, lads, no one shut that ball down at source. No one.
It was kamikaze.
They were
there was no leader in that back line at all saying, I will clear this.
No one done it against James Ward-Prowse, not once but twice. Identical goals. No one did that for Wolves. It caused chaos. And that's what I don't understand. It's like they're looking around each other. So Ben Davis is, I didn't know what he was going to do, Cootie. And Cootie's like, well, where's Davinson? And Davinson's like, I thought Dyer was playing, but he's been injured for 3 months. Like, you don't know what you're doing, lads. Like, surely, as individuals or as a team, it's what I was going back to.
Someone has got to take ownership there, haven't they? They've got to take ownership.
What are they doing on the training pitch, Rick? What are they doing? It is a team sport. You have to work as a team. Well organised, well drilled. Yeah. They are teams that get out of trouble. There's teams. People saying about players ain't being good enough. If you're good enough to work as a unit, as a team, that's where you become good. Does that make sense? Like,
but then that boils down to having a lack of ability.
But you've got to work as a team, Johnny, right? Haven't you? Like, look at some of the team ethics. I just don't. It's like we're a bunch of strangers playing with each other. It's crazy.
I think they're all quite quick to blame each other as well. I don't know if it was the first.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, you're right.
Was screaming his head off as though he's been, blameless for the last 3 seasons. But I wonder, that doesn't exactly instill confidence. So that's another little extra concern that I think we all know is bubbling under the surface.
If Brighton win on Tuesday night, I don't want to bring us down even more. They beat United, which would obviously be good for us in the chase for this top 4 position. Brighton will go above us, and only Southampton would be below us in the top half. You look at the teams that would be above us, City, Liverpool, all that lot. I said it 6 times tonight. They all pass the ball better than us. The rest of them, Villa, Palace, Leicester, Brentford, Leeds, Everton, they pass the ball like us.
How scary is that, Johnny? Yeah. Scary, Johnny, you saying that?
We'll be 9th in midweek. I know we've got games in hand. I get the words "games in hand" on Twitter because if we win our games in hand, we'll be doing this.
But you've got to win them.
You've got to win them. I'd rather have points on the board. Look, the first goal was kamikaze defending, and the second wasn't much better. Their defensive midfielder pops up and sticks it in the 6-yard box. When do our defensive midfielders get in the 6-yard box?
They don't. Yeah, no, I agree. On that second goal, I mean, again, we'll stick with you, Johnny. It was calamity from Spurs. We've got Lloris that miscues the pass to Davis, who hits it straight into Dendonker's follow-up, rather than also meekly punching it to Jimenez to score. I mean, the whole thing about Spurs and the move itself and the way we're defending, it's so schoolboy. And you just, one thing about Conte, what I would want to say in that, whenever I watch Conte's sides, defensively, they are so organised. It's almost like they're robotic, that they know exactly what they're doing. But again, I've said it before, Jose Mourinho, Mauricio Pochettino, now Antonio Conte. What is it with these managers, these top elite managers that have been there, done it, won it, bought the T-shirt, and maybe putting Pochettino in that section maybe is a bit unfair, but Mourinho and Conte, 2 of the best managers in the world to set their teams up, organised defensively. They just, when it comes to Tottenham, doesn't work out. Are the players simply not listening, Johnny?
No, they're not good enough. We've named them today. Davies, Sanchez, Winks, Romero. We've named them. And last few nights, Conte obviously got really passionate when we went 2-1 up, and there was that whole hoo-ha when we scored the goal with the injury. But actually, when we've conceded possession or conceded goals in the last few weeks, I've looked at Conte, and he's been a lot less arm wavy and shouty. I just think he's so resigned in his head that this season we will finish where we will finish. We ain't going down. We're not getting in the top. We might get in the top 4, but that'll be by more luck than chance because someone else has blown it. I think he's so resigned to knowing that these players are just not good enough. He must have looked at our squad when he got offered the job and gone, okay, he's a Welsh international, he's a Colombian international, he's played for England, and thought these boys can play. But God, he's got a rude awakening. I just don't think Marcus said it. I think they tried. I can't fault their effort today. They just have a lack of quality, and I keep saying it. And I just think there's got to be some people need to take a bit of a realistic look at things.
Mm.
We win a couple of games, we're going to get in the top 4.
Johnny, the one thing I wonder a little bit with Conte as well, managers have always, well, I was working with George Graham for a long time, he'd say that the biggest problem a manager can have is if they have too much success too soon, because it instantly puts a lot more pressure on you. So for Conte, I just wonder, he knows what he hasn't got, and you've got to be realistic in terms of giving a manager a bit of time. And I think that's where Conte is. And he cannot legislate against Hugo Lloris slicing outside his own penalty area to Ben Davies, who then panics and boots it straight at Dendoncker. And then I think there's a little bit of an unlucky sort of deflection a la for one of the goals we considered against Chelsea. So when things are going against you, that sort of thing happens. But it should never have got to that in the first place.
We don't turn those into goals. But we don't turn those moments into goals. When these things happen to us, we get the ball.
Do other teams? Does it happen to other teams like Tottenham? These kind of goals. I don't. Maybe I don't watch enough of opposition teams, but I don't see any teams that can see these kind of goals.
Even in the second half, wasn't it, lads? Even in the second half, viewers and listeners, it was like there'd be an opportunity for Spurs, and you think, oh, here we go, and then the ball wouldn't fall for us, or you know, he pulled it down. The fella pulled it down, and it just bounced off his chest. Or it just wasn't. And I was thinking, this is. I mean, very, very good friend of ours and friend of the show, obviously, Anthony Costa. He says it all the time in the group. This club's cursed. It's bloody cursed. Like, what is happening to this damn football club? We're cursed, man. It's crazy. What I would say,
I would explain it. Yeah,
I know. What I would say is, we have got it in our locker, lads and listeners and viewers. We have got it in our locker.
We've shown we have.
To be total shambles and to be a nightmare and comedy, as we've seen today. But we've also got it in our locker to go on a run and not be beaten for 8, 9, 10 games. And
as we've shown the first
to do that. If we're going to have a chance, and maybe this is why this club is basket case for me, and this is why it's a crazy train. But maybe we do go up to the Etihad. Maybe we do. I don't know how we're going to do it. Nick something, and maybe that's a catalyst for the next 4 or 5 games.
That's what we're saying. I think another club would. I feel another club loses 3 in a row. More often than not, you think, well, they're going to get smashed next week by a big team, and they don't. I don't think it's us. I just don't think.
I don't think it is either. Look, Luca 14 makes a comment there. It's the Nink curse. You might be right, Luca.
If we lock the City team inside their dressing room, we're not going to get anywhere there. But if you look at the next set of matches, I did mention them. I think that stage of the season, which includes the cup tie, and obviously we want to keep the cup going for as long as possible.
Oh, absolutely.
But I do think that Burnley, Leeds, Everton, United, and West Ham, that's the period that by then we'll know one way or another.
Yeah. I agree. Guys, if I do anything more in defence, I think Marcus will go for another couple of bottles of wine. So we will try and move on in defence. But as we said, I mean, Sanchez, more sloppy play from him today. Joe Rodon, as we joked and said at the start, why he's been playing. Maybe it's based on ability. But when he looks at Davinson Sanchez, he must be wondering, what have I got to do to start? But remember, obviously, as Conte said, that Rodon is the backup for Eric Dyer. I mean, Christian Romero, as we touched upon, among those who were caught on their heels for both goals. But we have to add, the bloke's done 3 games in a week. I'm sure we all agree he's absolutely knackered. Ben Davies, of course, presenting the ball straight back to Wolves for their second goal.
Just quickly on Sanchez, right? Just quickly. Before he was switched to a central in the middle of the free, because of Dyer's injury, he looked all right on the right-hand side of the free. He actually looked all right. He was playing all right. And you would have put him in that, get rid of Sanchez, get rid of Davis, get rid of, everything that everyone's saying, get rid of Winks before Conte come in. And he'd done something to them when he first come in. And you're thinking, oh, hello, he looks all right here. Then we switched him to centre of the free. And I think he looked a little bit shaky there. But, he's done what he's had to do. Then pushing him back out on the right with Romero and Davis. All I was saying, all of their, excuse the pun, defence, they ain't played with each other.
Yeah.
How many games? Come on, let's get the stats out here. How many games as Davis, Sanchez, and Romero played together, Premier League, I'll take a punt. I'd say 2, and that was Southampton and Wolves.
But I think that would be, wouldn't it? I don't think I say Romero hasn't been fit enough to play. I can see Johnny's going to see if he can find that for us. Yeah. I mean, I will say one thing. I mean, again, Matt Doherty's, offered very little down the right, of course, as either a wing back or a right back after Sessegnon's departure. I just do want to touch upon Sessegnon because, Marcus, you brought it up earlier. I mean, he lasted 28 minutes today before being taken off of Kulusevski. Conte had like a massive chat with him as he made his way back round the bench. And he seemed to try and explain to him the tactical reasons as to why, he was being taken off. Now, he gave a massive speech, I want to say pre the Mora game, how he felt this was his time to arrive in a Spurs shirt. And here he is, 28 minutes into a game, being taken off. What do you think the future holds for Ryan Sessegnon, in your opinion, at the moment?
Well, this was his time, and it was a total of 28 minutes. You feel sorry for anybody when they're taken off after 28 minutes, that long walk, and at least he did seem to get a lot of cheers from the crowd. And, I'm sure Conte was saying, this is a tactical thing, someone's got to have to go, and it's you. But I also agree with Lee, he was an absolute passenger. Again, he looked to me like he was inhibited, standing right on that far touch line. I kept saying, move, make a run, do something. And he wasn't. And so I think he kind of made the decision pretty easy for Conte in that regard. Having said all of that, I haven't seen enough of Sessegnon because it's been stop-start, injuries, loans, all the rest of it. But I've got friends of mine who just sang his praises when he was at Fulham and said that the guy special. No evidence of that so far, but I really hope. I mean, he's going to get another chance, isn't he? Because as we all said, there's no one else really between now and the end of the season. But I mean, the jury has to be out at the moment.
What do you think, Johnny, on Sessegnon very quickly? Because, again, we haven't seen him a great deal, as Marcus touched upon there. I know there's many that feel, and including me, that I've always felt with a regular run of games, I think there's a potential to be even better than Reguilon. But I worry that I don't think we're ever going to see that run of games because of just how injury-prone he is.
Exactly.
I'll come on to that. Did you ask whether the back three today had played together before the midweek?
That's what came up just a second ago. Yeah.
Never. Southampton was the first league game they played together. Sessegnon got a Fulham friend of mine who said he was a brilliant wing back, and then Ranieri came into Fulham, sort of scared the life out of him and played him a bit more defensively. And since then, he hasn't really kicked on. He signed for a lot of money. Do you remember when we signed Stephen Pienaar and was like, oh, he's a good player? Yeah. He came in and looked petrified when he played for Tottenham. Absolutely petrified.
Just some clubs are too big for players. I mean, that's the reality, right?
Possibly. But he looks absolutely petrified up and down that wing. I actually quite like Reguilon. I know his crossing's terrible. He should have finished one against Southampton. It could have been a different game. He did that cross where he had 5 men in the middle and he hit it behind all of them. But the problem with Conte is he gets so much out of his fullbacks. They're his creative players that they can't play 3 games in a week and they can't play 38 games. So he's going to have to rotate them. We've got big problems at fullback, like we have in the middle of midfield. We just got big bloody problems.
Will he ever make it, Johnny? Sessegnon in a Spurs shirt, or do you just think it just is going to be too big for him? This club.
I don't think he'll get enough. I don't think he'll make it here.
No.
Do you know what's man at the moment? I don't know if you guys agree. Spurs booed for the interval. Second time in a week. I can't remember Spurs being booed this much in one season than the previous 7 or 8. I mean, when you think about the amount of time Spurs have been booed at home, and listen, I'm not saying that's wrong to boo them based on the performances, but can you guys, listen, we've all been Spurs over God knows how many years between us. Can you ever remember a time when you think the amount of boos has been this season in comparison to other seasons at the moment?
Well, I feel like it happened every week in the 90s, no?
Also, Ricky, had it not been for COVID in the past couple of years, I think you'd have had a lot more booing.
Oh, you're right, Anna Mourinho. Yeah, you're right. No, you're spot on. I mean, again, Lucas Moura, we'll touch upon Lucas. Lee, you touched upon him earlier. He made, again, previous little in the way of inroads in that attacking, force for Spurs in those 71 minutes he was on the field before being replaced by Bergwijn. No, Moura was another player that, at the initial start of Conte's reign, looked like a player revitalised and re-energised. He looked like almost he was a different specimen under Conte. What's happened to him, Lee?
Don't know. Maybe these double sessions are hitting him hard. I mean, look, you can't fault his passion for the football club. Call it, come on, you Spurs, come on, you Spurs, come on, you Spurs. He puts out on social media.
You've got to have the performances, though, isn't it? It's ability.
Exactly. You can't fault any of that stuff. Right, 125 Premier League appearances, 19 goals. Right, from a forward. Right, he's got 13 assists and 19 goals in 125 appearances. This is a problem. This has always been a problem. I'm not bigging out Lucas. He's played okay this season. We've got a bit more of a tune out. 2 goals, 4 assists in the Premier League. He's if you look at him as the Pedro figure when Antonio Conte managed Chelsea, he's like your Pedro figure, right? You need around 9 or 10 goals, maybe 9 or 10 assists. That's around what Pedro is getting. Lucas, with another good couple of runs, he's playing quite a lot now. He could probably get there this season. Maybe 6, 7 goals, maybe 5 assists or something like that. Still not good enough. His average of goals to appearances in the Premier League isn't good enough for somebody who you're relying on to chip in with goals. I was actually quite impressed. Can't even believe I'm saying that word in the night tonight, but I was actually quite impressed overall since Conte came in of how other players needed to step up because Kane wasn't at the races. So Højbjerg's scoring goals, or Winks has even scored goals, or Lucas. So we're starting to share them around, not in bucket loads. I get that, but at least the goals are starting to be shared around. I was thinking, well, actually, when Kane starts hitting his straps again, and Sonny comes back, and I think I read today a stat that Sonny's been directly involved, either assists or creating chances or scoring in our last 8 goals. Yeah, so that's quite interesting, isn't it? When you look at that and you think, well, hang on a minute, he didn't really turn up today, and he's having too many touches, like we agreed with Johnny earlier and stuff. And you think, well, he's making stuff happen. So I just think Lucas, it's just so frustrating. Like you get the ball and you think to yourself, go on, son, drop a shoulder, 1, 2, go out. Yeah. We've seen it. We've all seen it. We don't need to announce where we saw it. We've seen him do it on the biggest stage. Well, why don't you do it in a wet, windy day at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Wolverhampton Wanderers? Why not?
I think it's another one.
Sorry, go on, Johnny. Yeah, go for it, Johnny.
I think it's another one. You almost said it there, a bit like Son, where it all just needs to fall into place. That goal we scored against Son's goal against Southampton was fantastic. All fell into place. Quick goal. Yeah. The Ajax goals. Very quick around the box.
Johnny, do you think it's too much overthinking moves?
Yes, I do.
You think it's less instinctive? Is that the problem, Johnny?
Yeah, when you're 2-0 down, the pressure comes on, and you probably think differently, and that's not really the kind of player he is.
I must say, because we're seeing some comments in, I do want to pick up on the fact. I mean, the booing, and again, listen, when you watch that first half performance, I mean, some will feel, how can they not boo? In a way, does that put even more pressure on the players?
Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
I don't really agree with the booing. The only time I agree with the booing was when Nuno took off Lucas, wasn't it?
He took off the Bergwijn.
And that got him sacked.
I think those stats, by the way, they surprised me, Lee. I know he's not prolific. I like Lucas. I do feel that he's trying his socks off. I think he plays low percentage football, so it's the little fancy flicks that on a good night they work, and they can work really emphatically. It's not going to happen to you week in, week out, and it's the same with Sonny as was it. Johnny said, he needs to have 5 touches. You can just tell with Son. You can tell. Yeah. I always think at the start of a game, you can tell whether he's going to have a good game or not, and he can't get his feet muddled up, and he tries one extra. It's like, no, get on with it. And Lucas is a little bit like that as well, which is why we're a bit of a hit and miss team. We always say how inconsistent we are, and I think that's because we have people like Lucas Moura that we rely on. He's not a consistent player, therefore we're not going to be a consistent team.
So maybe we are set up better away from home, and with 3 away games, 4 away games
better away, and that's why I think the next 3 games away, apart from the very next one, I think we might do all right.
Do you know what's funny? You mentioned that, Johnny, about being set up better away from home. I want to name check this. Obviously, John, one of our own, he put out a tweet earlier today, just in terms of the Spurs stadium. Now, since moving in April 2019, we've lost at home to the following, and I still can't believe when I read this out. Chelsea 3 times, Liverpool twice, United twice, Wolves twice, West Ham, Leicester, Everton, Southampton, Newcastle, Norwich and Pens. We won't forget that, of course, of the FA Cup. Ajax, RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich. Now, is there an element where that there's a fear playing at this new stadium? Conte's spoken a lot about the need for it to become a fortress. Marcus, I'll start with you on that point. That stadium,
possibly,
is that a big problem? If we're being honest, this wonderful stadium, It's not White Hart Lane, of course, but I mean, is there more to that than meets the eye when I read you those names that have beaten us there?
Well, the Chelsea ones don't surprise me because it doesn't matter where we play Chelsea, we're going to lose to them.
Well, that's exactly, yeah.
That isn't a surprise. I wonder if the opposition's inspired as well going there. It's a wonderful new stadium. I think they might actually.
Bruno Lage said that, Marcus, in his interview. He said it's a wonderful stadium to come and play your football. And I just wonder again if that is working against us.
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that does work against us, but equally when you've got this magnificent home and you've got 50-odd thousand in there, that expectation to perform is even greater, which then perhaps correlates into the sort of performances we've had of late. So, yeah, there are two elements to that I suspect have got definitely some part to play in what we've seen over the last few weeks in particular.
Yeah, I mean, Lee, coming over to you, we talk about the stadium and Con says it needs to be a fortress. If Spurs are to be a club that are going to look to transform themselves into a side that can be a top 4 side. I mean, I'll be honest about it, and I said this before, that I would be fearful going into the Champions League with this squad right now. And that's why, for me, I'm going to say it on air, I just want to see Spurs win a trophy. I mean, the FA Cup to me would mean everything to win this season. I don't disagree that you need... Mate. I don't disagree that the Champions League, you maybe need the Champions League to attract the players, but we attracted Conte, we attracted Romero outside of the Champions League. To me, it's not the be-all and end-all, but I understand the importance of it. But to go into the Champions League, you need to have a good home record. And our home record, as I read you out there, the teams that are beating us there, that's really alarming, isn't it?
I mean, fair play for our man John Lily White Rose for putting it out. That's unbelievable when you read that out there. It's literally unbelievable. I mean, the fortress thing. I don't know whether there's a sheet, a tick list that you need to tick to go. Well, it needs to be this and it needs to be this, and that qualifies as a fortress. Yeah. But everyone knows where I sit by now. I broadcast it every week. So 252. I'm there with my boys. One of my boys there. Hello, Nick. Nice you for tuning in. San Nicholas Martin, get in there, fella. But Johnny, you sitting in the south as well, and at times when that stadium rocks, like for example against Man City, the first game of the season.
Yeah, I was unbelievable. I mean, it was an unbelievable atmosphere that night.
Even Wednesday night, Lee, when the song goal went in, the place was absolutely jumping.
Absolutely mental. By the way, and Stuart Beasy said this earlier, you can see on my eyebrow here, Dave Martin, Nick's brother, he stuck his finger in my eye when we were celebrating that goal on Southampton. So scratched me eye, and it was all limbs and everything, and it is mad. But it's a chicken and egg, right? And the chicken and egg is this: if you're watching turgid football, it's very, very difficult to sing. I mean, at points, maybe I'm too over the top, but at times I'll stand up in the south and I'll try and get a song going on my own. And I'm singing one of their own with Harry on my own. I am the bloke.
Because you're the only one who's still supporting him on that one, Lee, I think.
Again, but this is the problem, isn't it, Johnny? Do you know what I mean? We're not cohesive even from that perspective. Like you talk about today, Wolves turned us around, right? And that we wanted to be shooting the second half towards the Kop, essentially, towards the South Stand. But why? Because there's not even that much noise going on there.
No, it's an annoying thing. There's nothing.
No, I'm not saying about you because I agree with you.
I'm like the other end. It was good. I was pleased they went that way in the second half. Depends what you see.
You want to be sucking them into the goal almost, don't you? With the noise and all that sort of stuff. And we just don't get that at the Lane. Somebody just said it's a tourist attraction. There's a lot of people in the. And it doesn't matter if it's the south or the north or the east or the west. I'm not precious about where it needs to be, but there needs to be an area where people want to go, where it is about singing and getting behind the team constantly. Because when an Antonio goes up, it is deafening. It is brilliant. How do you get that for 90 minutes? That to me is a fortress. There's fans around the other grounds that are phenomenal at doing that. And I think come back to a point you made earlier about. Do other teams raise their game when they come to a stadium? So many people have heard this is the best stadium in the world, rubbish, that they probably do. There's 3,000 away fans sitting there, making loads of noise, and maybe they do raise their game. It was the same at Wembley. People come to 80,000 crowd at Wembley, they raise their game, and it's all these little factors that end up having a big factor on the game. It's so hard to understand what a fortress is. Is it the team's job to make it a fortress, or is it the 12? The
crowd.
And what is it? Because if it's our job, if the only thing that we can do as fans when we go there is to sing, to get behind a team, to not moan, to really galvanise, then come on, that's the rallying cry. Let's do it then. Let's make it happen. Because maybe, like you said earlier, when we go away, the away fans, Tottenham away fans are absolutely incredible. They are amazing. And maybe there's less pressure on it, and that's maybe why we play better away from home.
So Jay, I promise you we're going to come on to Kulu in just a second, but I just want to finish this topic. Johnny, listen, you're the stats man. I feel like I've taken your thunder there by reading that one out about the stadium at the moment. Is that a problem as well? Is that an element of the problem, that stadium, or is it bigger problems than just the stadium? Am I looking too much into that? When you look at the teams that are beating us there, the way teams seem to come to Spurs set up, is it about a fortress?
Some of the names you read, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, they're going to beat anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
I look at the games we've lost in the league this season at home. Chelsea, United, Southampton, Wolves. We failed to score in all but one of those. It's a bit like the Son thing that Marcus said. You can kind of tell with Spurs once the game started how we're going to do. I actually think the crowd have been pretty good this year. Being the shit we've been through, starting with Nuno, I know we won the first 3 games, but it wasn't much to do with him, I don't think. I actually think the fans got Nuno sacked, and I actually applaud that. I think he deserved that boo. It was a real sort of, no, you can't do what you've just done. We've been through a lot of shit the last few years in relative to where we've been, and I actually think they've been frustrated the last couple of weeks, and they have booed at half time. I didn't really agree with it. But I actually think the crowd have been pretty good and pretty patient. I think we're a patient bunch.
The crowd,
we pay the highest prices, and not.
Of course, listen. I want to be. Yeah, I agree with you. I want to be clear on that. Listen, certainly not criticising the crowd. I just think generally, I mean, the nature of that stadium. I don't know whether that is playing a factor against us, and an element of what's going on at the moment. I don't know.
I think it might be, but I don't think it should. I think it should be a fortress. I think you've got 53,000 up against 2,000 away fans. I think it should be a fortress. And I think that comes back to just not having good players.
Yeah, I agree. I think it always comes back to that. Harry Kane. Marcus, I mean, listen, I think Kane, I don't even criticise his commitment today. I think he tried what he could do. Most on his own in that first half. He had a few opportunities in that second half, including a big chance when he was put through, but Sarr saved with his leg. The one thing that is really annoying me, and I know it's annoying many people, and I see this on Twitter all the time, why is Harry Kane still on free kicks, Marcus? Can you understand this? Why is Harry Kane still on free kicks?
Because no one else can take him either. That's the problem. And we're not exactly blessed with set-piece specialists, are we?
Surely someone is better than Kane at the moment.
But who? I mean, that I was asking myself that question. But if Kane doesn't take him, who else is going to? From that starting 11 today, who else would you have take those free kicks?
I probably would say Bentancur, because I've not seen him take one yet.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility.
Last time Lucas took a free kick, granted against the opposition, but regardless, he scored. It was against the Minnows, wasn't it, in the FA Cup? What was their name?
Marine. Was it Marine?
Marine, yeah. He scored. It was a brilliant free kick.
There you go. I'm going to give you a Harry Kane free kick stat in a minute. Hold on, I'll come back.
Oh my God! Before we hear this, Johnny, Marcus, should he still be on him then? In your opinion?
Listen, Harry Kane, I like everybody today, he didn't have a great game, but I think the last month or so, I think he's been back to his absolute best, and I wouldn't want to take anything away from him. If he thinks it's his best chance to score, I'm happy for him to take the free. And today, it was like, Harry, God, you better do it by yourself, mate, because that's why sometimes now he's a bit guilty of overplaying, because he knows if he passes the ball, he's not going to get it back. So I'm always have been a huge Kane fan. Even when we had a bit of that boom, just sort of early on in the season. And if he wants to take the free kicks, I think he's still earned the right until Lucas. So Lucas scored a free kick at Marine 13 months ago. I'm not sure that guarantees him.
I'm not sure that wins the argument in the changing room.
Barrel markers. What can we do? Do you know what I mean?
What top trumps wins it best? Marine the free kick. That's the top trump for the free kicks.
I take all. Give Beds. Sure, I haven't seen the new guys. Maybe one of them can take one, but otherwise, I mean, Harry gets there because no one can.
Right, here you go. I've got the number.
Go on, Johnny. Let's come over to you, Johnny. Go on.
He's taken 53 free kicks in the Premier League, and he scored one. And we all know that took a massive deflection against Villa and turned it around.
Right, give it to Moore. That's fine. Okay.
Suddenly, Moore has been top trump to the top. I mean, Lee, very quickly on this, Harry Kane, should he still be on free kicks?
No, absolutely not. Well, just quickly on Harry Kane, though, what I would say is that, we mentioned earlier about people trying to drive forward and so on and so forth. I think he did have moments where he was he wasn't sitting around today like
he wasn't. He was
putting his hands on
committed.
his
Listen,
hips or
there's no.
whatever.
Kane was committed
He
today.
tried to do a Roy the Rovers moment, didn't he, and take on about 5 players. But again, like the whole game, it was like right at the crux when he needed to do what he did. The ball went away from him or whatever, and he did try and do something today. But the problem with Harry Kane and the problem with the way the team's set up at the moment is when he gets frustrated, he drops deeper. And when he drops deeper to start to ping balls out, even today, his balls. Where am I going with that? His balls pinging is what I was going to say. When he was pinging some of his normal passes, they weren't hitting the target either. And then he's putting us under. Under pressure himself as well. So it's just a horrendous day, mate, wasn't it?
Yeah, horrendous. Doesn't get much better now when we're coming on to Heung-min Son. I mean, listen, we all love Sonny. We all absolutely love Sonny. I mean, today, sent through by Benson Cure in the first half, never seemed confident at all. Don't you guys? So never seemed confident. Turned inside, hitting a really weak close shot of the keeper, set up Kane for a chance, but I don't know what it is at the moment, Johnny. Listen, I love Son. He's an incredible player on his day, but at the moment, he just looks so completely off it. Can you give an explanation as to what is going on with Heung-min Son at the moment?
He's been injured. I think sometimes that gets trotted out a bit much. He's a professional. He's fit again. He should be back on it, but got to play closer to Kane. I don't think he's a left winger. Again, we've said it a few times tonight. Shouldn't have so many touches, but it's not necessarily been a massive problem. He's got to play closer to Kane. And Marcus was bang on. You can tell with Son after 5 minutes whether he's on it or not. Against Southampton, he did it twice. He tried to go past the fullback and forgot to take the ball with him. Did it once today in the first and second half. He overran one. Overran one against Southampton. I think it was 2-1. To maybe we were behind, and he cut inside and overran it straight to the defender. And he did it today in the first half. Tried to take the guy on, ran it straight out of play. Players go through peaks and troughs, of course they do. But I don't think this is his best position. I keep repeating.
Well, I think he, like I've said about Lucas Moura, I think that Son is not that consistent a player. When he's good, he's absolutely fantastic. Remember the League Cup final last year? He had an absolute horror story. When you look at, we always look at the Spurs team. When you've got those players up front, they're always going to be good. Well, they're not always going to be good. When they're good, they're very, very good. But you can compare the front guys at Liverpool or wherever else who all actually it's not entirely true, is it? Because some of the Liverpool strikers, Mane hasn't scored much recently, but they seem to consistently turn up. Whereas I do think that I don't know the figures, but that Sonny, when he's good, he's very, very good, and when he's not, he's below average. And I think that's another reflection of why we keep saying Spurs are always so consistently inconsistent. Even our best players. I'll take Kane out of that. I think he always gives it his all and plays well. But just about all of the other ones, Moura and Son, who would be two of our trump cards, certainly compared to the back at the moment, they're not that consistent. So it's no surprise that our results aren't.
Do you know what?
I was just going to say, even Kane this season, though, Marcus, isn't it? It's 6 goals and 2 assists.
Can I ask you, Lee, on that point, Lee? Listen, Mourinho, and again, for all of his faults, and I know there was many with fans, he did get the best from that counter-attacking system out of both Kane and Son. Was that just a freak season? Will we ever see that again, Lee? Those figures that both Kane and Son put up together as a pair? Because, you think with Conte, he's a bit more expansive than Mourinho. And yet again, he's only coming off halfway through the season, so I'm certainly not judging Conte now. But what I'm saying is, next season, is there any reason why we can't get Son and Kane back to that level which Mourinho got them to? Listen, as Keith said on the screen there, they've got 110 goals combined under Jose.
And Kane and Son haven't assisted each other yet this season. They were doing it for fun.
That's
what I mean. But can we not get back to that?
Is a mental stat, isn't it, Johnny? As well.
Mental.
Nick said earlier, my man Nick Martin, he said, "Where's that understanding of Kane and Son gone?"
They're miles apart
I
from each other.
I wonder at the beginning of the season. We talk about mentality and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, everyone's human. I wonder at the beginning of the season, Son signed a new contract, a new 4-year deal. Says, "I am Mr. Spurs. I'm staying." Meanwhile, in the exact same time, Kane seemingly is going to Man City. And I just wonder whether all of that has made a difference to their partnership. You work with somebody, whether or not it's on a professional level, and you get on with it and you do stuff. But I'm always a massive believer in smiles on your faces and having fun and trying to enjoy yourselves and whatever. And, even when some of them score nowadays, it's just a bit like, I've scored. I don't know whether that's got, again, this is elite sport, viewers and listeners, everybody. So when I talk about this, it only takes like 0.5% to drop off. And then that means that we end up losing 2-0. Do you know what I mean? So these little things might end up being a big thing. But to answer your question, look, I personally think both of them are world class. I know that that's a different debate for a different show because we've been going now in 24 minutes. But the reality is, I think they're good. They are very, very good players, world class in my opinion, and they will gel and go again. And that's why it's annoying that it's the hope that keeps you and the hope that kills you, because you can see that linking up and having 4, 5, 6 games where they're both just on absolute fire and they're scoring for fun or assisting or whatever. You can see that happening, but equally, it's so frustrating when it doesn't. And I think you just nailed it, Marcus. We're the most consistent team of being inconsistent, and that's horrible because that's mid-table. You can't, in this league, you cannot lose 7, 8, 9 games. You can't do it if you're serious.
No,
you can't do it. And that's where we are now.
And also, Lee, it's mid-table, or maybe just above mid-table. It also means you don't win a cup because somewhere in a run of 7 games, you're going to have a bad one.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You're going to do what we did today. And that's what I'm saying. When you said earlier about FA Cup, Rick, you're spot on. At the end of the day, we have a day like today, you're gone. You're out of the cup.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Even looking at the analysis of the Champions League run, which we're all very, very fond of, we nearly went out against Barcelona. Right? We were very, Lucas Moura,
and obviously PSV, of course. He looks back at that run.
It was a nearly. Ajax. You could say that we were fortunate again.
City, we had VAR
against. We always do it the hard way. And I said on Chris Callan, friend of our show, and I was on his show midweek. And I said in his show, and I say it again. I think somebody said this earlier as well. The thing that will beat Tottenham to the top 4 this year
is ourselves.
Is Tottenham. That's the reality. It won't be West Ham. It won't be Leicester. It won't be these Arsenal fans coming on here giving it live. It'll be Spurs. We'll beat ourselves.
Yeah. Conscious we haven't spoken about the 2 new guys in there. I'm going to have to somehow sandwich in Harry Winks without getting Marcus down on another bottle of red. Kulusevski, Marcus, let's come over to you. Listen, he was being called back after just 25 minutes coming on, of course. He was the man, as we said, to kind of make the way. Spurs switched that 4-2-3-1. Listen, tried to make things happen, played a good pass through to Son in that second half, then a flashing shot wide with 15 minutes to go. I think the thing with Kulusevski is, and I think you have to kind of understand this in critiquing a player, obviously he's not that pacey, so he's more of a technical player. Do we need him? Is he what we need, Marcus? Is he going to work for Spurs from what you've seen so far? Listen, I'm not going to write somebody off, but what do you make of him so far?
No, I mean, I thought he huffed and he puffed, and I thought he grew into the game. I thought he was going to score because where I sit when he shot, I thought he should have got that one on target. I don't think he's going to be a world beater based on the very few minutes I've seen of him on the pitch, but he might prove to be a very useful addition to the squad. I really think it's too early to say at the moment, but I'm not going to be running naked around the Seven Sisters Road or anything else. I think cheering.
Not again, anyway. We've been there.
Not for that reason.
Not again.
Did I miss that somewhere?
No, I mean, I think I've occasionally threatened to do that sort of thing, and it's never quite happened. But I don't think he's going to be the sort of guy that will lead to those types of celebrations. But come on, we've got to give him a chance. He came on after he played for an hour today, and I did think he grew into the game. He likes to suffer, doesn't he? As you were saying the other night. Well, Jesus, we're at the right place. Suffering. He's going to enjoy himself if no one else.
Oh, don't worry. He's got lots of it to come. Don't you worry about that. I mean, Johnny, let's come over to you on Kulusevski. I think jury's out. If you read Twitter, there's some that have already made their mind up very, very early on. Listen, I'm conscious that you do need to give a player a bit of time. He's come from a different league, different culture, different country, of course. And again, there's got to be a settling period. And what I will understand and try and recognise is that I don't think he is what we actually needed. And that's my only frustration. Again, we've gone for a player there. When you look at what Spurs have needed, I think in January was a creative midfielder. But that's certainly not his fault. I'm not going to blame him for that. But what do you think lies ahead for him, Johnny? Will he be a success at Tottenham from what you've seen in this very glimpsing period so far?
I don't think he's going to start all 38 games in the season. But I think, as Marcus says, I think it's a good addition to the squad. He's got a bit of the Chadleys about him. He's a bit not quick, a bit ungainly. He's okay. He's not a winger for me because he doesn't have the pace. I thought he did settle into playing 10, but when he played in the 10, we didn't see Kane really for 25 minutes, half an hour, because he sort
That's a good point.
of treading on his toes.
Yep.
I don't have an issue with him. What did Conte really want him? Probably not. You read the Athletic did a long article about how we failed with our targets, and Paratici just went to Juve because he knew he could, and knew it was available. He'll be fine. I think he's an upgrade on Lo Celso, and we've upgraded like a player there. I think
he's moving, isn't he? So definitely an upgrade on Lo Celso.
Yeah, he's a terrible player, isn't he? I thought Bentancur's fitted right in for me. I think he looks like a good player.
Yeah. The funniest thing is, though, I mean, since Don Blain and Lo Celso have gone out on loan, apparently they're putting their best performances in years. So, I mean, it's
that's
the top.
Good,
it's the top.
That's good for us. We want them to buy them.
That's the top curse, isn't it?
Tottenham fans be fooled. They are.
Watch him go and be nominated though for the Ballon d'Or next year, and here we are trying to salvage ourselves with bless him Kulu. I mean, Lee, listen, I know you're always level-headed, fair, balanced on players. We've not even seen a game yet of Kulusevski, so very hard to judge so far. But what do you think the future holds for him? Do you see him being a regular in that level? Or is it just simply too early to judge what the future does hold for him in a Spurs shirt?
Yeah, I think I can see him being a regular, depending on how Conte is going to change. Because let's be brutally honest. I'll ask you a question in a second. Arsenal battered Chelsea 3-0, and then Conte changed his system, and then went on a 15-match unbeaten run, winning streak, I should say, and then won the league. We actually finished that run for them, didn't we? 2 Dele Alli headers, weirdly enough. But the point I'm making is that, Conte might now start to look at changing the system, right? Because we can't keep doing what we've done for the last 2 games. If he starts to change the system, maybe Kulu, I can't say his name, I'll murder it every time. Kulusevski, not bad.
Kulusevski, we're getting there.
I think that he could have a part to play. Way too early to judge him. What I would say though is he should have scored today. 100%. He should have scored. I thought again that was another moment in the game where you just roll your eyes and go, just ain't one of them days. It's just one of the days for Tottenham today. Because again, I know we've moaned quite a lot, and this is the thing. And once I got it off my chest, I start going all optimistic again. So feel free to wind me on. But we had 8 shots on target today, and some of them were soft, but some of them we should have scored. Like we should have scored. That was off target today. That should have gone in the back of the net. Now, Son should have scored with that left foot. He daddled on it in the first half thing when it come down on his right hand side, and he took another 2 touches. Should have gone in the back of the net. Bang, do it quick. We had a couple of goalmouth scrambles. When Romero tried to hit it back in, the corner coming back. We had chances to score. People, rightly so, and we've all said it tonight. Defensively, we were woeful, but we should have scored as well. We should have scored at least 2 or 3 goals today. We should. Yeah. We created enough chances to score. So, that's what I'm saying. The team collective, Decky, there you go. Nice one, Wes G. Actually, Alistair Gold did say that, didn't he? Called him Decky. Yeah. So, Decky, he should have scored, and we should have had.
By the way, they got a good keeper, Wolves. I'll say that. We did have chances, but he looks like a good. I know we're not here to talk about Wolves, but he's got a good keeper.
What about that time, Johnny, where he I think their keeper wasn't sure where, or I think his name's Sanchez as well, isn't it? Like, he wasn't sure whether it was a back pass, so he chested it. Then it came out, and the loose ball, and you're thinking, if that was any other team, that's in the back of the net. But not today. It was Tottenham. It was like scrambled.
Actually, can I just, on the subject of the Wolves team, the other thing that did make me chuckle, but to be fair, he did very well, but they gave their 19-year-old Luke Cundle his first Premier League start. And I heard afterwards Bruno Lage being asked why, and effectively said, well, there's no more perfect team to make your foot than Tottenham Hotspur. So
isn't it just
the ultimate insult really coming there? That again annoyed me when we had 2 young kids on the bench today, and I know it was a lost cause towards the end, but I quite like to have seen one of them come on for the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
might as well.
That's the other thing. I mean, we mentioned, sorry, Rick, but we mentioned John from Lily White Rose. He goes down and watches all the youth games for Lily White Rose, and Chris Cannon does as well. And there's a lot of knowledge in Last Word on Spurs and in the group about the youth. What's surprising me is where is our next amazing right back coming from, or right wing back, or
Do you think that again, Lee, is because Conte needs to win right now? There's a less of an emphasis on youth because I feel like I agree with you. That's a worry.
Now, is he? He's got Emerson and bloody Doherty. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ, wouldn't you rather have somebody that had the club at heart? But mind you, so was Winks.
That's it. I will save the Winks chat. Again, listen, a game or two asked for him. Conte put faith in him over Højbjerg. We have had a question in very quickly on that, on Højbjerg, because, again, I will read this one out. This is from Sperano. It says, can we please now realise that when Højbjerg is available, he must now play right at the top of interceptions, ball recoveries, and only 2 midfielders in the entire league had better passing stats than him last season. He's not a world beater, but he must play to provide protection to our defence. Who fancies that one? Anyone want to take that on Højbjerg?
Well,
Who agrees?
The one thing I would say is great. How often do you have your best game in the stands?
That's a good
point.
That's
the thing. That's the thing. All our players are great when they're not playing. We beat them up. It's the first time he's not played in a Premier League game when he's been available. First time he's been on the bench. I really liked Højbjerg. When we played Southampton in the Cup just before COVID, I thought he ran the game when we beat them in the FA Cup under Jose. I really wanted him. We got him. I was like, he's been schooled at Bayern by Pep. He must be good. Had a good Euro for Denmark. I don't often buy this tired for a professional footballer, but he's played a lot of football. And I'm wondering whether his brain is telling him something and his legs can't do it.
Yeah, I think that's half the problem. And I also think, Johnny, he's playing passes that I think are beyond his capability.
Yeah, totally.
But I feel he's trying to do it for Conte. And I think sometimes maybe just stick to what you know that you're good at. And I think maybe doing too much is also not great. So, I mean, again, listen, it'll be interesting to see if he is recalled because he's been a Conte favourite so far. You know, it's the first time he has dropped him today. So,
but also, Ricky, that's a really good point you made. But don't you think also it's a further reflection that he's trying to do too much because he doesn't have faith in the person he's playing alongside in the midfield?
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, absolutely. On that point, listen, Bergwijn, of course, came on, injected a bit of drive in the Spurs last 20 minutes. But I think we can all agree that, again, probably Bentancur was one of the better players on the day, of which was a real negative for Spurs. Played a fine full through ball to Son on goal, what should have really been the first goal for the South Korean. Listen, cut this up, he passed the yellow card in there. But from what we've seen of him so far, Lee, Bentancur, are we confident that, he's going to be one of the most positive influences on Spurs for the rest of the season ahead?
I'll be honest with you, Rick, he's a bloody good-looking chap, isn't he?
Well, what can I say?
You know what I mean, Rick? You know what I'm saying?
What can I say?
we call him Ricky. We call him Ricky Bentancur because he is your double, as we all know. Look, I think.
I'll pay you later, Lee, for that. You have to bring that up.
That's all right, mate. Don't you worry about that. Look, I think he is the real deal. But I'm not saying he got caught for them goals, JWP, and also today with them not closing down the people. But I do worry that he needs some time to get involved into this team. Yeah, and, we as Spurs fans, we don't want to hear we need time. We do not. We need trophies and top four, and we want it yesterday because we've been desperate for so long. So, but it does need time to bed in. But some of the way he brings the ball out of the air, for example, dare I say Berbatov-esque, I'm not quite sure I'm allowed to say that yet, but, he's got a brilliant touch on him. He's got a brilliant threaded through ball in him as well. What is it, triangle button on FIFA for all you FIFA players out there? He's got that in his locker as well. So I do like him a lot. I'll be honest with you. I'll go back to what Johnny's stats said earlier about Liverpool and Leicester when we played 3-5-2. I can just see him playing better in a free in the middle of the park. Let him do his stuff and maybe we're missing Skip as well, to be fair. I mean, some of the Skip stats that are floating about at the moment are ridiculous. So hopefully when he comes back as well. But I'm sure with a Skip and a Bentancur and maybe a Højbjerg in there as well will give us a little bit more stability. And, I know I mentioned earlier about maybe we're setting up defensively or so on and so forth. But, the stat that you read out, I think you read it out earlier or somebody in the comments, or Johnny, you might have said it, so forgive me. But we've conceded every single game. Was that what you said, Johnny, earlier? That we've conceded a goal in most of the games under Conte. And that's mental.
I might have said that earlier. Mental. Yeah. No, it is worrying. Bentancur, very quickly, guys, before we have a very brief 5-minute look ahead to City. Johnny, so far, Bentancur, happy with what you've seen of him? Yeah, confident he can be a success in the Spurs shirt?
Yeah, I think he looks like he's settled straight in. You play 200 games for Juventus, you're not a bad player. You can't be. And Kulusevski's played 100 odd games for Juventus. These are good proper players. The stat is we only kept 2 clean sheets under Conte. And I did just have a look. Bentancur's lost consecutive league games for the first time in 3 years. So well done to him. Well done to him. Breaking records again.
I've always said Spurs, the records you break over here, just quite unbelievable, isn't it?
I think he looks a really good player.
Yeah.
On the ball, off the ball. I think he's just a good player, proper player.
Marcus, for you, early days, but happy what you've seen of him so far?
Like him, and I concur. I've been writing what I think would be my ideal team with the new 3-5-2 formation. And I, as Lee said, I'd have him alongside Skip, and then I guess Højbjerg comes back in. I'd also bring in Bergwijn as a wing back in that system as well, with Reguilon on the other side.
About playing Mora at wing back as well,
Marcus, or Mora, one of those two definitely. And I'd like to give when he's fit, Dyer and Rodon a chance to make a partnership with Romero at the back. So I think Bentancur in that 3-5-2 will be putting a lot of the strings. So he's going to be critical if we are to escape this malaise. Yeah,
well, I must say before we look ahead to City, I know people were saying please don't. We are going to have a very brief look. We're going to have a very quick 5 on it. But just on Skip, the importance of him, the results this season with and without Skip starting, with 10 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses, without 1 win, 2 draws, 5 losses. I think we can't underestimate just how important Oliver Skip is to that Spurs midfield. And it's worrying because I think he's 21 years old. To have that reliance on somebody that young is massively concerning. But again, we shall wait to see. But we are going to go for our final break of the show. For our listeners that are on audio, for our watching us on YouTube, there's still nearly 700 of you plus watching us live. I hope you're all okay. I hope we've given you some kind of therapy. As
hit the like
painful
button.
as this
Hit the like button.
I think after tonight, I think the unlike button the way it's been going.
I've got no enthusiasm for it tonight, Rick. To be honest, I'm just hit the like button.
I must say, Johnny and Marcus, they might not be joining us every week, but Lee is always encouraging the likes. But even him today, he can't even bring himself to do it. Right, guys, City next Saturday. It will give us a chance to hopefully lick our wounds, come again. I don't want to go too much on City because, again, team news, it may very much change over the course of the next week. As the comment on scene here says, get me a doctor. Let's start with Marcus because any more talk about Spurs City, I do think what that wine bill is going to be. Marcus, City, give us any hope?
I'm scrabbling away trying to see, does City play in the Champions League 2 or 3 days after
there's a nod here. Yeah, I think it looks like they do play in the Champions League.
PSG. I think they got PSG in the midweek.
PSG in the midweek.
Right, so
Sporting Lisbon away on the 15th.
Oh, right.
Okay. Right. So there's the slimmest of hopes that that something might distract them there. Listen, I think next weekend we all go to the seaside. We have some beers. We don't look at anything to do with football because it'll only disturb and upset us. And we start again, having lost our 4th league game in a row. By going on this wonderful run at Burnley, Leeds, Everton, Manchester United, and West Ham, and I just can't see anything else. I just hope we don't get humiliated next Saturday afternoon.
You know what's interesting, Lee? Come over to you. And listen, we have got another show during the week, which will have a bit more emphasis on City. I just wonder whether Conte sets us up not to get beaten. My worry with that is that look how we play defensively. I mean, Lee, what is the right way to go here? Is there a right way to go versus City with his team, this squad?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Southampton played 120 minutes before they played us in the FA Cup tie, didn't they? And that didn't make no difference. I think City need to have a couple of players sent off, preferably their goalkeeper, as well as maybe a Raheem Sterling or Kevin De Bruyne or something like that. Look, it's a loss. Anything we get out of that game is a bonus. That is so small.
You've never said that, Lee, in the 5 years you've done this. You've never said this.
Look, it is so small club mentality, but it is where we are. We can't go in there getting battered. But we are gonna lose that football match. It's going to be 4 on the spin, and maybe there's a bit of reverse psychology in my own head here, thinking, if I set my expectations like this now, it might be all right when we get a 1-1 draw. But what I would say, we've actually got an all right record against City. Like in general, we've actually got an all right record, and at the Etihad as well. Let's not forget we got in the Champions League when Crouchy headed home a Kabul free cross to get into the Champions League under Harry. Christian Eriksen, I remember Lamella snatched a 2-2 draw a couple of years up there.
I'm more ahead of the more ahead of
more headed in that day, didn't he, or whatever. So look, we've got an all right record up there, but I'm not trying to get anyone's hopes up, right? Just you can have your own hope and your own dreams. We're going to lose, and that is the end of that.
Marcus, do you want to come back in there? You're going to say something there very quickly.
Well, I was about to just have a quick look at the head there because I have
head-to-head.
Conceding 5 and 6 and God knows how many to Manchester City. Some of those actually were at home. But you mentioned small club mentality, and I'm afraid this is the classic cliche that we should be saying it's not games against the likes of Manchester City that are going to define our season. It's I'm afraid that is a little bit what it's like at the moment. This is dangerous territory we're heading towards.
Oh man, alive. Johnny, in your stats book, is there anything you can give us to give us some kind of hope against City? Anything?
No. We do okay now. Law of averages. Their run's got to come to an end at some point. Will it be Spurs that ends it? Probably not. Marcus fallen over there.
I think Marcus collapsed when he's just seen the head-to-head. Marcus, is that what happened there? I think he's got the head-to-head up, isn't he?
The recent head-to-head. Yes, we lost 1-0 in the League Cup. Did we? I can't remember playing them in the League Cup. Oh, in the final, of course. No, that was the final. We lost 3-0 last season in the league there. We did draw 2-2, you're right, the season before that. Lost 1-0. We lost 4. We did lose in the Champions League that night, though, of course, we went through 4-3, 4-1, then another 2-2.
I guess the last one was Valentine's
this weekend. We won 1-0. We've got a brilliant record there. Yeah, we're winning this game.
I think it was Valentine's Day 2016, was it? The last time we won there?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Valentine's Day again.
Valentine's Day again. Yeah. Right, well, let's close it with some City predictions. My God, why are we doing this to ourselves? I don't know why we're doing this. I'll squeeze this one in now. I'm going to go for a 3-1 City win. I really hope I'm wrong. Johnny, let's start with you. What are you going for, John?
I'm the biggest pessimistic Spurs fan there is. Yeah. I'm going to go 1-1. 1-1.
1-1. There you go, 1-1. Unbelievable.
That's in corners, by the way.
This is what happens, right? We come on the show. I absolutely love it.
You're telling me nearly 2 hours later, we've just lost it.
And then we go, we're going to take a 1-1.
I never predict us getting a result, ever. I'm going to do it.
Brilliant. Mate, I hope you're all right, fella.
I'll tell you what. I must say, we've got to remind people, he's on the back of 180 plus minutes after losing to Southampton and Wolves at home. And here we are, getting a neck a point at the Etihad. Yeah. Marcus, couple of units. What are you going for, Mark?
Well, I feel now that Johnny's got into the realms of fantasy. I think we might win 4-1. No, we'll lose 2-0. We will lose 2-0. We'll defend much better, but they'll still get a couple.
Okay. I mean, as Louis says there, this show is the crazy train. It's only right to go to Lee to close the train. You know, you want to jump off it. Lee, you've never predicted defeat. Have you on Last Word on Spurs? Do you ever predict defeat?
I don't, actually, but I'm about to change that right now after, 4 or 5 years with you, fella. I think we're going to lose 3-0. And I think it's going to be another tough one to take. All I would say is, and I know we've been through so much pain and it freaking hurts, right, as Tottenham fans, but it always has to get worse before it gets better. There's surgery, absolute massive surgery that's needed in this squad. We can't do anything about it until the summer. We hope that Conte can get it right and he sticks with us and stays with us for what will be the new project. But can't see anything other than a huge defeat. But I think the thing that goes in our favour with Man City is they're not very good at possession football, are they? And they don't really press. So against us, they've got really, that might go in our favour, right?
Possibly.
By the way, listeners on audio, I'm rolling my eyes when I'm saying that, by the way. I can't see the irony.
Right. It's been listen, as always, I find these shows therapeutic after you've done them because you always come up. I always think towards the end, you feel better than when you started. Just do us a favour, don't go watch Match of the Day 2. Just don't do that to yourself. Let this be the last you've watched that game, saying don't let yourself
do yourself a favour. I tell you what, just a quick last one because this is a little one, and I know people are going to say, "Oh, it's Stan Kroenke and he's a gooner and whatever." That's fine. That's the own things. But the Rams play in their second Super Bowl today of modern times, right? And actually, they got to the Super Bowl final the first time of the same year that we got to Champions League final. And what they've done in between time is so very similar to Tottenham. It's absolutely ridiculous. in a sense of they built a brand new stadium, the SoFi Stadium, which is now called a $600 million sponsorship on that stadium. The thing is absolutely amazing. I was lucky to go over to Los Angeles a few years ago, sucked me in. I become a Rams fan. That's how it is. You can't choose it. It's what it does. And tonight they're playing their second Super Bowl in the last 3 years. They went out and backed the team. They got the all out in their first draft pick to go and buy Matthew Stafford, who's been absolutely outstanding as a quarterback for them. Then my message is, They lost in the Super Bowl 3 years ago, but they went out, they backed their manager, they backed the team, they built a stadium, and done everything Tottenham did, but in terms of the stadium, but Tottenham didn't back them, and the Rams have been backed, and now they're in their second Super Bowl, and I really hope they go and win it and put that story to bed. And Tottenham fans, you can go and have a look at that and Bordy and Nink. That's how you do it. You want the Super Bowl at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium at 2026. Go and have a look at what they're doing in that league, because that's how you back your team. That's what happens. So
on the other, Lee, on the other side of things, the Bengals, I'm not an expert on this, but were they not run just about a year or two ago, and now they're in the Super Bowl? So perhaps we can relate even more to that.
Yeah. It's a great.
We'll have a draw. We'll have a draw in the Super Bowl.
Maybe I'm just doing the wrong show here. Maybe it should be last word on Bengals. I mean, this is where it's going on. This is where I'm going wrong, Marcus. You know, I really should be revamping this. I really think we should be revamping this. But always a pleasure having you on, Johnny. Love having you back on. I promise you, Johnny, for your sake and mine, I will never bring you on for Wolves. No more Wolves games.
Fine. Deal.
Couldn't make this up. Marcus, always a pleasure. Can I just say, Marcus, the next time we have you on, I hope we have not changed the manager.
Well, there's every chance we would have done, but yeah.
Don't say that. My God, right. Now I have to get you back on next week now, Marcus. For Marcus' sake, we're going to have to find a way to bring Marcus back on this season. I hope we've still got Conte in charge. Brilliant to have Marcus Buckland on. Listen, great Jonny Blain as well. Lee McQueen. Lee, thank you so much, mate. Never easy doing these shows, so always appreciate the honesty. Guys, we are back with you later in the week. So listen, keep faith. Thank you so much for all your comments tonight. Listen, we know it's never easy doing these shows on the back of a defeat. From Johnny, from Marcus, from Lee, from myself. Guys, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.